On June 7th, 4 best friends and a bunch of their friends will pile into a TV studio in Philadelphia with buzzers, microphones, lights, and trivia to recreate 24 of their favorite game shows, streaming online, live and uncensored. It's the 12th annual 24-hour game show marathon, raising $10,000 for Child's Play, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting children's hospitals around the world through the power of play. To learn more or to donate towards the $10,000 goal, go to gameshowmarathon.com.
Tell us about yourself. Conversations with Game Show Contestants is produced in partnership with the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, one of the largest history museums in the United States, and one of the leading museums serving families with highly interactive exhibits and programs. Since 1968, the Strong Museum has been dedicated to exploring the ways in which play encourages learning, creativity, and discovery, and how it illuminates cultural history. And their National Archives of Game Show History. Founded by industry veterans Bob Bowden and Howard Blumenthal, the archive is home to thousands of artifacts representing over 80 years of broadcasting, including props, set designs, video interviews with game show professionals, and other iconic elements from the history of television at play. For more information about the National Archives of Game Show History or the Strong National Museum of Play, visit museumofplay.org or call area code 585-263-2700.
Blue 35.
Tell us about yourself, would you?
Tell us something about you.
For any new viewers, why don't you tell us again about yourself?
We've met before, but let's meet again. Tell us about
What
yourself.
else can you tell us about yourself?
Perhaps you'd fill us in again and tell us about yourself.
My name is Raul Villanueva. I am originally from Las Vegas, Nevada, but I'm currently living in San Angelo, Texas, and I am a teacher.
What grades do you teach?
I've taught a myriad of grades. I've gotten 5th grade, 4th grade, 6th grade. Done a little bit of primary work with first graders, high school work with some 9th graders. But my absolute favorite, has got to be 6th grade.
Oh, so you've been all over the place though in terms of ages that you teach.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've done, a myriad of grades, but I've been an instructional coach, coming into classrooms, supporting teachers. I've been an educational trainer, traveling the country and teaching best practices to teachers around the country. So yeah, I definitely have quite a bit of experience, K to 12.
Out of the grades that you've taught, let's say over the past couple years since your Wheel of Fortune appearance, how vocal are you when it comes to that being a fun fact about yourself? Do you tell your kids that you were on Wheel of Fortune?
So it's kind of interesting. So I am currently homeschooling my child because we just transitioned from living in Hawaii to now to Texas. And when I appeared on Wheel of Fortune back in 2023, that was the last time I was actually in a K-12 environment. So like my students were all, they knew that I was trying to get onto the show. Like when we introduced ourselves at the beginning of the year, I told them like one of my goals that I have for this year is I want to get on to Wheel of Fortune. And, we all created these like vision boards at the beginning of the year, and they created their own, and they saw like this progression of like me going and submitting my video, applying, and once they saw that I was, got to like the next phase and auditioning for the show, they were the ones that were actually helping me prepare, right? Like we were creating like these hangman games like on our whiteboard. And so it's been a lot of fun, getting that preparation to be onto the show. And so when they got to be able to watch the episode and see me win like a ton of cash. It was just, yeah, a whirlwind experience. But since that point, I haven't been in, a regular traditional K to 12 classroom environment. So when I eventually get back into, teaching in that environment, yeah, I will definitely be mentioning uh the fact that I was on a Wheel of Fortune. That might be like my two truths and a lie type of thing, setting up to, the get to know you teacher type of situation like at the beginning of the year. But yeah, we'll see when that time comes.
Sure. As somebody who's taught in a classroom and also had the homeschooling experience, what advantages do either environment have over the other? Is homeschooling better in one way than in classroom learning and vice versa?
Yeah, so I only have this 1 year, or not even a full year of experience with my son. And originally we did it because we weren't, the most enthused about his instruction. Coming here, it's like, middle of nowhere, Texas, and nothing against, anything. We just wanted. We knew that because I wasn't teaching during the time, that we had an untapped resource where we can be able to like dive all of our attention into our son. He's 7 years old right now. He's in second grade, and the advantage for me personally being on both sides of, traditional school and homeschooling, obviously is the academics. It's the for homeschooling. You have, instead of one teacher trying to teach 20, 30, 35 students, it's just one person and all of your attention is dedicated on, boosting up their academic progress. And not only is it, the academic part of it, but it's also the social, the emotional, the physical, like the development of the entire child. So I would say in terms of the, regular classroom environment, I think the advantage is the social aspect, right? You have many people that you can be able to interact with, same age peers, adults that you can go ahead and try to, develop relationships with. Maybe you might connect with a certain teacher as opposed to a different teacher, right? And that's one thing that we're noticing with our son, where he's like, there are times where he'll say, like, "Hey, Dad, do you think for next year when I go into third grade, do you think I can go back into, like, my regular school?" And, I'll ask him like, "Oh, well, why? Like, you're doing so great, you know you're making, huge gains, right? Even though you're in second grade, you're doing math in third and fourth grade level. Your reading is, just skyrocketed. You're doing a lot of science experiments." And the reason why he mentioned that he wants to go back is, "I wanna be with my friends." And, like, that part just kinda, it's like it's a pain in the heart? And
Sure.
so we've tried to, incorporate other different social aspects that, kind of meet that need, whether it be, he's, joining, theater practices, he's doing soccer practices, he's playing games, he's interacting with other people that are the same age as him. So, it's for our situation right now in our kind of season in life, we're trying to balance all of those different things: academic, social, emotional, physical, everything, to make sure that, he's developing into, into his potential. So, yeah, there's definitely some positives one way or the other. I'm not here to say, one is for sure better than the other. I'm just saying for our personal situation, we were just more comfortable in doing homeschooling, at least for this year.
Sure. Well, I respect the amount of work that goes into maintaining all of the I think about the social aspect in particular, but maintaining the academic as well as the social and the extracurricular, and just kind of building that curriculum at home. That takes a lot of work, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do have the experience of, developing a curriculum, through my, 12, 13 plus years of being a classroom teacher. So I definitely see that I have a little bit of an advantage as opposed to maybe a parent that is just trying to just seek out, okay, let's try homeschooling and see what happens. So, um, definitely empathize with anyone that is, trying to weigh out those options. But it's been interesting. It's definitely been a thing that I haven't experienced before on the homeschooling side of it.
Raul, I typically, in these interviews, try to find out what role game shows played in the contestants' life before they had that opportunity. So, growing up as a kid, what kind of kid were you? Were you into this type of TV? Did it mean a lot to you?
Oh man, Christian, you're hitting these hard hitting questions, man. I'm loving it. Yeah, no, game shows weren't really like super big in my life growing up. I have a twin brother, Richard, and I have a younger brother, Giovanni. He's 8 years younger than, so there's a bit of a gap. And I think just growing up, we were just like huge, just TV fans, just in general, like TV fans and also like video game fans. So we'd go to school and we do our homework when we got back home from school, and then more often than not, we would just go straight into playing video games. Like we would be playing Mario Kart, Super Mario 64. We'd be playing FIFA, a bit of Final Fantasy 10 when we were, a little bit like middle school age. And I think a lot of times when it came to game shows, it was just, hey, if we were watching just TV in general, if it happened to be on, we'd go ahead and watch it. And of all of the TV show or game shows that were on, the most accessible to us was Wheel of Fortune, right? Like, Jeopardy would normally come on after, and being a kid, you trying to be able to answer a question, and I think we would basically get everything wrong. Maybe we might get lucky and get like one question right and think we were the smartest kids in the world. Like, yeah, that's right. I happened to guess it. I had no idea what the answer was, but I guessed and it happened to be correct.
Oh, it feels
Uh,
great, doesn't it? I used to love when that happened. When I was younger, I lived in Connecticut, and so we were not far from New York. We used to get channel, I think it was like WLIY, or it was channel 55 on Long Island. They used to show Jeopardy at 6:30, and then Connecticut, channel 8 used to show it at 7. So I would sneak watch it in my room at 6:30 and then come out for dinner around 7. We're watching the same episode. I'm getting these answers one after the other. My dad's like, "How the hell do you know all of that?"
oh yeah, the fact that you're able to get one after the other is just impressive in its own right. How old were you at the time?
I was when I was living when I was living in that particular apartment, that was between the ages of like, wow, it was a long time, Raul. It was like between the ages of like 7 and 15. I lived there for a while.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But
That's amazing.
I was that kind of kid, man. I've loved this stuff my entire life. Um, Video games. Let's talk about it. Did you own any of the home versions? Did you have Wheel of Fortune for Super Nintendo or N64? Because it sounds like you were a Nintendo kid growing up.
I was definitely a Nintendo kid growing up because like it was just the console that like our mom could be able to afford at the time. We had a single parent household, and my mom just tried to do anything that would just kind of like stabilize us and just keep us like, happy go lucky kids. And so we had like a Nintendo 64, and we had, just like a couple of games here and there. So like the Mario Karts of the world, the Super Mario 64 games where we try for endless number of hours just trying to be able to like get to the very end. And um the game was so interesting because it would be difficult to the point where you would have to have multiple tries, and you'd be working at it for hours just to be able to like accomplish a goal. But it wasn't easy where you could be able to just do it like that. So
Yep.
when
That's
I look
exactly how
back
I
at
felt about Donkey Kong Country. That's my favorite series. And that's what Donkey Kong Country does. It's difficult, but not so difficult to the point that it's unfair.
yes,
And that's a
man,
very
Donkey
fine line to
Kong
tell, I think,
Country,
in
what
gaming.
a callback.
Oh man,
Love
that's
it.
my favorite. I'm telling you, that's my favorite series. I adore Donkey Kong.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When I think about like Donkey Kong Country or like any of those games growing up, I don't know, man. I'm like kind of like flooded with like just like a million different memories right now at this moment, and it's just it makes me kind of think back to just like the simple times of just hanging around with my brothers and just having just a good time, and like just time was just passing away, and nothing else really mattered. You weren't really focusing on, the stuff was like outside of the household, right? And I don't know, it just brings me back to a simpler time. And yeah, yeah, it was just a ton of fun. So very much appreciate you asking the question because that definitely just made me think back to stuff that I haven't even thought back in dang like decades. So
Oh, I'm so
appreciate
glad.
it,
Then
Christian.
we're in the right spot. We're doing the right thing. That's excellent.
You're gonna be
Um,
like Oprah getting me crying here
I know,
in a
right?
few
No, no,
minutes.
hopefully not. Hopefully not.
No, no, no. It's all good.
uh,
It's all good.
and tell me how that made you feel.
Yeah. You know what? It all comes back to no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right. um, I even I lost my place. I'm having so much fun talking about Nintendo. I never get to talk about that aspect of things. Like when it comes to these conversations, I feel like the interest in game shows can be so complementary to other interests. I was talking to somebody for this show a couple weeks ago, and we talked about how somebody who's interested in something like Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune, and I'll lump them together because I think for our generation, they just go together. Those two shows are just that's just an hour of television, you know? The interest in things like Jeopardy or Wheel of Fortune can sort of precipitated interest in reading, in spelling, in broadcasting, in set design, in music. I mean, all of those interests play some part in creating a good game show, I think. Um,
Yeah.
so it's interesting to me to hear the parallels in interest because that was me when I was younger. I was a Nintendo kid, but I loved Donkey Kong and Mario, but I was into puzzles. I loved anything with blocks and colors and matching and making them disappear and making combos and stacking stuff. Anything like that, I adored. And I as an adult, I find that a lot of my friends who are also into game shows were into that kind of thing as well. And to be into that kind of thing in the 90s, like I said it a few weeks ago to somebody else, like, our parents had nothing to worry about when it came to, like, violent video games. I had no interest, none whatsoever. I wonder if that's your experience as well.
Of interest just, like, into just games in general?
No, so, like, I feel like with the type of game that interests people like me or people like you, like game show fans, there isn't room in there for what was really popular in the 90s. I'm thinking in terms of like the more violent games. It feels like to
Oh,
be a
gotcha.
parent in the 90s, you were battling so much outside influence. And to not have that massive thing that it seemed like all my friends were into, to not have that interest, I feel like that takes a load off my parents' mind. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they don't have to worry about that because that just wasn't the kind of kid I was.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting perspective because, like, it can go a bunch of different ways, right? Like, you can be just a big video game fan and you just play everything that's just out there under the sun. I think really my childhood was very similar to from what I'm hearing from you, Christian, is that, we played, a lot of these, board games and video games and a lot of stuff. It never devolved into like the violent kind of games, the shooter games, the
Right.
zombie games. Although we played it every now and then, I really do attribute it to, like, my mom. Like, my mom was very much like, "We are going to shelter you from any sort of, like, violence," because, like, growing up in, like, East, Vegas, like, there's, a lot of, drugs and crime, and in my family background, like, there, are I've had people that are, were in that situation, in jail, like, it was, a difficult, environment, not to say, like, it wasn't a pleasant environment, like, we definitely had a good childhood, but I think my mom was trying to make sure that we were well-adjusted. No one in our family at the time, graduated high school. She was just immigrated from Mexico, to the United States and, just trying to, like, kinda live the American dream. So, the American dream was essentially just go to school, do your work, get your degree, get a good paying job, and then you'll be successful, right? And she always made sure that we took that, like, that was the most important thing was schooling. So you did your school, you tried it your the best that you could to get good grades. You come home, you did what you were responsible for. Your homework, your projects, everything. And if you didn't do that, then you didn't have the reward of, like we were mentioning, the games, right? You didn't have the video games to be able to play. You didn't have the TV that you could be able to watch. You didn't have the board games that you could play. We were just there were times where, like, you were just in your room and you couldn't come out until you finished all of your stuff. And so I do attribute, like, that aspect to my childhood from my mom. It wasn't okay, I, am into board games or into video games, and then that just kind of just kept me just to playing, like, the non-violence, the higher rated, uh, maturity level type of games. And honestly, like, I honestly, I don't think I'd prefer it any other way. Like, I did love my childhood. Like, I loved being able to hang out with my brothers and played, these games like for hours on end. And, board games was a huge part in our family. Like, we would have, board games like every day, if I remember correctly. And when we got older, becoming adults and life was kind of like, you know, pulling us apart a little bit. I'm doing my teaching stuff, and my brother's in college, but my other younger brother, he's still in high school, and my mom's kind of trying to balance everything. We still try to make an effort to like have like a weekly board game night as a family, just to like maintain our relationship, because things were pulling us, and I think that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have that strong foundation growing up.
Sure, it's really important to maintain some remembrance of what you described a few minutes ago, Raul, simpler times. I feel like years ago, when we were kids, right? Things like Wheel of Fortune or Final Fantasy or Donkey Kong, they were escapes from real life. They were fantasy. They were a way to not be involved in the real world for a few minutes. And there was that separation. I feel like entertainment and real life were very binary back then, where like you're doing one and then entertainment comes through and it takes you away from that first thing for a few minutes. Today, I feel like everyone is, not to sound cliche, but everyone is always connected, is always online. Wheel of Fortune is literally in the air that we breathe. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
it's so accessible that, I would hesitate to say that it's no longer like a special thing, because the thing itself is special. To even have the opportunity to watch so much of the show and play so much of the show, I think is very special. But it is no longer like a novelty. You know what I mean? Like we can watch and play this thing whenever we want. Um, so I love that you still maintain that connection, because I think that those simpler times, right? They're as far away as we want them to be. I mean, we could make time to do the things that keep us together, like you're doing with your family and game night. Um,
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, like in today's world, you have your phone and you can just be instantly entertained. But when it came to like Wheel of Fortune, you're making dinner and you're hanging around with your family, like Wheel of Fortune pops up, everyone can be able to play. Everyone has that escapism. And then now in today's world, it's you can escape at any moment that you want, right? So it's yeah, definitely brings it back to a much simpler time for sure.
yeah, definitely. Tell me about Wheel of Fortune as a kid. What kind of fan of Wheel of Fortune were you? How intense was your appreciation for that show?
Yeah, when I mean, Wheel of Fortune right now in my life is like, it's one of the bigger aspects of it. Like I went onto Wheel of Fortune and I just immediately made it my entire personality. Because I have the podcast and all that stuff, and we can get to that later.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
growing up as a kid, we watch it as a family every now and then. I'm not the one that like the type of Wheel of Fortune fan where you watch it every night and you're there with your entire family and
Hi,
everything has
Eugene.
to be turned off. Well, yep, Eugene Bien. Yeah, I just had him on the podcast of this past week. Yeah, he definitely mentioned how like that's everything, right? Like 6:30 comes around, I'm not getting any calls. No one is distracting me. I am from 6:30 to 7 or 6:30 to 7:30 because you have to watch Jeopardy because you have to have that tandem.
Of course.
I wasn't that type of fan growing up. It was if it happened to be on and I wasn't, occupied by anything else, I would go ahead and watch it. And like my brothers every now and then we try to like compete against each other. Like, okay, we're looking at the same puzzle. Who can be able to answer it, quicker than the other person? And to be honest, I don't even know who would do it even better because, um, I mean, we weren't like super great. Like we weren't as bad as it was with when it came to Jeopardy, where you can only get like one question right. We were a little bit better, but I think even as kids, we were still trying to compete against like the adult contestants that were on the show, and I think more often than not, we probably didn't uh, beat come up with the answer before they could. Maybe we can go ahead and kind of piece apart the puzzle. Oh, okay, I have the word the. Okay, I have the last word there. I don't know what the second word is. But yeah, it's just yeah, it's just like a nice little bit of escapism where, you can be able to do something together as a family or even just on your own for, half hour. And, there was never really any bickering when it came to like, family stuff. Like, sometimes you're watching the news and then you're arguing about the politics or you read, you watch something that's a bit controversial and, your heart's a little bit elevated. But when it came to Wheel of Fortune and like other game shows, those were the ones where like it was just pleasant. It was just nice. Like you just had a good time just watching it. And I think I would watch it every now and then as a kid and growing up, but I never really got into it until like I was, much older in life.
Who introduced you to the show? What was your what was your well, yeah, what was your introduction to the show when you were younger? I know, like, I was into Jeopardy because my parents used to watch it even before I was born, so it was just something that was in the house. Similar experience for you when it comes to Wheel of Fortune?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if I can like really pinpoint the exact moment. Like, someone introduced me and said, "Hey, here you go. This is going to be something that will be more important later on in life. Wheel of Fortune."
Sure.
But I think it was just my mom. Like, we were just every now and then we just had the TV, and we never had cable growing up. We had the whole like the bunny ear antennas thing sticking
Oh,
out, and
yeah, channels 1 through
sometimes
13. Yep.
yeah,
On a good
exactly.
day.
On a good day, maybe there's a little bit of static. I'm sure the people that are, like, younger listening to this have, like, no idea what we're talking about. They're like, what?"
Good.
But yeah, like
Let's keep it that way. I don't wish that on anyone.
yeah, yeah, actually, yes. We walked so they can run.
That's
But
right.
we yeah, if it happened to be on and, and sometimes I think there may have been moments where, like, all the other channels were just completely stagnant, like, we just didn't have the right connection at the time, and maybe, like, Wheel of Fortune was the only thing that was working right, and, we were able to watch it and, and it was fine, like, I don't think there's ever been a time when I watch Wheel of Fortune and I'm not, like, actually trying to solve it. Like, sure, there might be times where, like, I'm checking out, but there's at least one of the puzzles where I'm like, "Okay, what is it? Okay, that person just called a Z? Who calls a Z?" Like, as a kid, like, I would be yelling at my TV of what? Like, when people would have those type of moments or everything is filled up, maybe with the exception of, like, one little rectangle and, like, the person says it wrong, and then, like, the family would go ahead and, just go bonkers as to how did the person do that, but not only I as a person watching it from their couch, even as a kid, yeah, you can go ahead and judge, but it is a completely different beast when you're actually there in person at Sony Picture Studios.
Oh, in many, 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 many ways. It absolutely is.
Yep.
I'm I'm listening to you talk about your childhood and talk about how this kind of stuff played into your life to a certain degree and then, ramped up as I got older. And I'm thinking about what you said earlier about the American dream. And I'm thinking about your mom. I'm thinking about you being the first generation to be born here. And I wonder, and maybe you have no insight into this, but I wonder if things like Wheel of Fortune played into that idea of the American dream for your family. Because I know that a lot of people look at things like getting on Wheel of Fortune or Jeopardy or The Price is Right as like the American dream. Everybody wants to do that. Everybody grows up in America wanting to get on a game show and win a car or win a trip or win money. I wonder if any of that resonates with you as anything that may have been any sort of influence uh growing up. Was that part of that dream at all?
Wow, what a fantastic question, Christian. Holy cow. Man, we are going deep level here. I don't to be honest, the answer is not gonna be a great answer. It's I don't know.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I would love to ask this exact question to my mom. As someone who came from Mexico and can't like and then, immigrated when she was very young at, around 12 years old and not knowing a single word of English and maybe watching, those types of shows, was that a type of thing where symbolizes like the American dream? For me, I don't know if I did. Like it definitely would bring up like mental images of just experiencing success, right? Like, you see people that are winning a ton of money and they're so happy and they're celebrating with their families, their loved ones. And I don't know if I don't know, was even aware that I was connecting the American dream to, any sort of game show. The American dream to me, just growing up and, single parent household, parent, you know, not having, been in the country and, experiencing, the types of, I don't even know what the correct word is, but like prejudices, right? Because like she didn't, even when she learned English, she was very, not quite like fully like the Americanized version. And so
Sure,
growing up, like
sure.
our mom made sure that when we were, out and about, we didn't learn a single word of Spanish. It was all just you had to be able to speak English, but you also had to make sure that you spoke it properly in a
Yeah.
way where you were just assimilating to the American culture.
Yeah. Oh
And
my
like
God.
now as
Same,
an adult,
same here.
yeah,
Same here. That's exactly what happened to me. I I still don't know a ton of Spanish. I know a little bit, but that was not a priority for my parents because they wanted us to speak English. English was my dad used to say it was the language of the future. It was the language of business. You know what I mean? Like as you get older, if you have a job interview around here, it's going to be in English. And so, yeah, that was a massive priority for my dad.
yeah, and there's so many similarities. Like, just I was recently in Hawaii, and there's none of that going on for like Mexican culture because there's not many people of like Hispanic descent that are living there. There's some,
Right.
but
Right.
moving here to Texas, there are so many people that have that exact same story. And I was kind of a little bit dumbfounded. I'm like, okay, I thought it was just me, but no, there's so many people that I guess they were just taught by their parents that like we want to make sure that you are completely uh I don't know, Americanized for a lack of a better term, that you spoke the English, but you spoke English, but you not only spoke it, you spoke it in a way where it wasn't any different than anyone else who has been in the United States or like their family has been in the United States for, you know, decades, hundreds, centuries. Um, but that American dream aspect was always rooted in education for me
Sure.
personally,
Sure.
because it was always like the gateway out of poverty, for my family. So my mom always made sure that we were, again, doing all of our schoolwork, doing everything that we could, and when it came time to, graduating high school, we had no idea what we were gonna be doing afterward because we were on, like, a singular mission of just getting an education. So, like, we had no plan on what we wanted to do, and, we were presented with this program where, people, in minority groups, were presented with this program to actually become teachers themselves, and it was called Step Up, and if I remember correctly, it was like it stood for Students to Teacher Enlistment Project Undergraduate Program. And so, essentially what this program was, your education to become a teacher was going to be paid for as long as you taught within the same district for a minimum of 4 years. And so the idea was that people that are in minority groups don't typically see teachers that look just like them. They don't necessarily see that the the success that they could experience is right there in front of them because
Right.
all the people that they have seen, experience success in life looked different.
Yeah,
But I
sure.
think
Or
when it
they
came
see the faces of those teachers, but they don't see them for a long time because I think that there are
yes.
some areas where it's more difficult to be a teacher than others. So, yeah, to have that steady face day after day, I imagine they want to incentivize that.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that because like it's if you see, a parent or even like a family member that is experiencing success, then you can be able to see yourself in, okay, I can do that too. And going even to like Wheel of Fortune, I don't know if you know, and you may do because you are a game show historian. Like Vanna White, when she was very young, I believe in the third grade, she decided that she wanted to work in the entertainment business because she saw her uncle was like in a movie at the time. And so her seeing someone that's some like close to her experiencing success, it inspired her to do that as well. And so when I kind of going back to also just watching Wheel of Fortune, when I look back, I mean, there are people that are winning, all these different things that also look like me. And it made me like as an adult, maybe like somewhat in like the back of my mind type of way, um, a little bit inspired this to say that I can do that too. Right. And even now, like my life right now at this point, like I have a huge goal. Like we're kind of shifting a little bit from like game shows to like reality TV. I have the goal of like wanting to be on Survivor because like I was inspired by someone who had like a similar background to me. And but I want to go on Survivor because I want to like inspire people that also have similar backgrounds to me. So it's interesting how like, you know, uh, talking about the American dream, can evolve over time. Where like you're not only trying to attain it, but you're also trying to help people also attain it that may or may not look like you or be like you.
Oh, for sure. Well, the American dream is something that I think morphs every day, and it's so many things to so many people. While we might dream about getting on Wheel of Fortune or Survivor, somebody else, their American dream is to develop the best carpet shampooer that's ever been available
Yeah,
on the
right.
market. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like that's
exactly.
truly
Yeah,
what they
uh-huh.
want to do. Some people just want to, live in like a log cabin and forage for food. Like that's their dream. Um, it's interesting though, just how many different forms, that dream can take. Is
Yeah.
mom still around?
She is, she doesn't have, like, the greatest health right now, but she is around, and so she was able to experience all the success that, me and my brothers have had, going from, living in poverty and, just graduating not only high school, being the first in our family to do it, but also, graduating college and getting our undergraduate degrees, getting our master's degrees, and so, yeah, I'm so proud of the work that, like, we put in, but I'm so proud of, like, the work that she's put in because she's been inspiring me to just continue to be better every day.
Yeah, for sure. How often do you talk to her?
It growing up, like, as a young adult, if you were to ask me the same question, I would probably say I wouldn't want to talk to her ever because, like, being in the same house with, like, you just, there's the fights that are going on, and
Yeah, of
there's
course.
just
I
the
hate you, mom. Get out
disagreements.
of my room. Yeah, of course.
Yes, and but when I married my wife and, my wife's in the military, so, like, we, travel every few years, going from different place to place, I missed home. Like, I was so homesick to the point where, like, it was, like, depressing that, like, not to see, like, my family and friends on a regular basis. And so as a way to kinda stay connected, we've been doing, like, these weekly, FaceTime calls. Like, it's, like, every Sunday where we just, for an hour at a time, we'll go ahead and just kinda catch up on life. And so, yeah, once a week is where we're at currently.
I was gonna ask if you wanted to call your mom and put it on speaker, who could find out the answer to the question about whether Wheel
Well,
of Fortune
I
played
think
any
she's
of
at
these.
work right now. Let's see. Let's see if I can.
Call, yeah, put it
I'm
on
gonna.
speaker, put it up to the mic.
Okay, let's see. Hold on. All right, I'm gonna put her on speaker right now. We'll see if she picks up.
All right.
'Cause I think it's.
Good morning.
Hey, mom.
Hey, honey.
Hey, are you at work right now? Are you able to talk?
Yeah, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm on a podcast right now, and we have a question here. Um, are you okay with being on a podcast and answering this question? Because I know you're at work too.
If I know the question, it should be no problem.
Okay, Christian, did you want to ask the question?
No, no, I want you to ask it. You ask it.
Okay, about the American Dream.
Yeah, yeah, just about like yeah, about Wheel of Fortune and like if that played any role in that at all for her growing up.
Okay. All right, so mom, so we're talking about like the American Dream and about like Wheel of Fortune because this podcast is all about like game shows and the experiences of people that have been on the game shows. Like when you were thinking about like the American Dream, did like game shows kind of like Wheel of Fortune, like seeing like the success ever like inspire you to like want to like do better in life or like even for like us like Richard, myself, Giovanni, did the success ever um I don't know, inspire like the American dream in your mind?
Well, yeah, because my dream was for my kids to always be better than me, do better things than me. Um, the American dream is, yeah, to first, have food on the table so they can have their home, have their stable home, healthy kids, a better future for the kids. A part of the American dream in my mind.
Awesome. Well, Mom, thank you. I won't hold you for too long, but I love you very much, and we'll talk soon.
I love you too, honey.
All right, love you.
Have fun.
All right, bye.
Okay. Bye.
That was the sweetest thing. I love that.
Oh my God, dude,
That was-
you're gonna get me crying here.
Oh no, don't
what is
cry,
going
don't
on?
cry. No, I just, Wheel of Fortune is one of those shows, and I think because it's everywhere, every station carries it. You could watch it no matter what part of the country you're in. It's just it's all over the place. And so I know that a lot of people who emigrate to the United States uh, use things like Wheel of Fortune as methods of learning English, of learning how to spell, of I work in hospitality, and I had a housekeeper apply for a job once, and she told me after the fact that when she came to this country from El Salvador, she used Wheel of Fortune as a way to learn how to spell, and then she applied that to, like, filling out job applications, writing about herself, and that was, like, a huge influence, and I know that that's true for a lot of people who come to this country. So it was really just out of complete curiosity, I just made that connection, like, she came over here from Mexico. That was a popular show it's always a popular show, but especially around the time that I think you were born, if we're more or less around the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder if there was that connection, and now we found out, and you got to call your mom.
Yeah, I definitely love talking to her, and I bet there's like definitely a non-zero chance of some sort of influence in like me acquiring the English language through Wheel of Fortune. I mean, I've heard so many times of people that have, they learned like their letters by watching the show. They learned their, how to spell, by watching the show. And not only like for people that are, second language learners or people that are immigrating from other countries, but also just like regular everyday people that just live in this country. Like I just had a conversation with a gentleman in Houston, Matt, and he just had his episode earlier this season, season 42, and he was saying that his son was dyslexic, and that one way to kind of get him to be motivated to learn how to spell, learn like how to the different words, the vowel combinations, was to just by watching the show. And so it's interesting how yes, Wheel of Fortune is an entertainment show, but so many people are being educated by it just by playing a fun little silly game.
Yeah, absolutely. Something about the idea of a phrase appearing on a screen and being filled in one letter at a time. First of all, from a gameplay standpoint, is so engaging. I mean, you can't walk by a TV with a half-solved Wheel of Fortune puzzle on it and not try to figure out what it is.
Yep.
But then,
Yep.
yeah, from a phonetic standpoint, learning about language, learning how to spell, learning about punctuation and things like that, and learning, common American phrases. Yeah, there's something to that, I think, as a learning method.
Yeah. 1000% agree. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your appearance on the show itself. It's been half an hour. We might as well.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Let's do it.
You were on in 2023. How many times did you try to get on the show before it was successful and you made it on? How many attempts at auditioning had you made?
Yeah, so it was 2 attempts. So I tried it. I honestly, it was really born out of my wife. So, like, whenever we would play, she is crazy good at answering it so quickly. So I was like, "Okay, maybe we can go ahead and do it together." Because, sometimes, like, Wheel of Fortune will have, like, couples competing against other couples. And like, "Okay, let's try this." Because I would be watching an episode of Wheel of Fortune, and well, let me backtrack a little bit. My fandom for Wheel of Fortune really started when I became a parent, okay? And
Sure.
the reason why is because I would watch, some shows for my little son, and, it'd be like the Sesame Streets of the world, the Blues Clues of the world, Blippy every now and then, even though I have, like, trauma, just all the Blippy stuff. But over time, eventually that stuff, those shows, they kind of like just melt your brain as an adult. I'm like, okay, I don't know if I need to hear the color green being spelled out to me for the 8,000th time. And so those shows were great, and my son was, enjoying it and all that stuff. And I would, trying to be like a really good father was always with him no matter what he was doing. And the thing that really was something that we could actually watch together was Wheel of Fortune. Like that, I do accredit him like for learning his letters, learning his vowels, learning how to spell certain words, like especially like the shorter words, like the CBC words. Uh, when he was younger by watching the show. But like as he was watching it, learning and calling out letters and learning what T is and E is and all that stuff, I was I was like getting like really into watching Wheel of Fortune. And so I would try to see if I can go ahead and answer, come with the answer to the puzzle before the contestants did on the show. And my wife at the time would probably be like, maybe she'd be in the kitchen cooking or, doing something and not really paying attention to what was going on. And she'd just turn her head and instantly get the answer right. And I'm like, are you serious? How is this possible? I've been spending, I don't know, 5 minutes trying to answer this puzzle, and she just turns for like a split second and was able to come up with it. So that was when I was like a little bit interested in going onto the show because there were times where I was getting it before the contestants. So I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And so I was like, I don't know if I want to do this on my own because I'm not like a crazy good solver, but you know who is? My wife. And so I'm like, let's go ahead and apply together. So we applied, we put in an application video. We did it. I don't think there's a way to actually do it like apply at like together at the same time. So we created separate videos, but in like there's like a little note section where I would say I would like to appear with my wife on a couples themed week for Wheel of Fortune.
Right.
And we heard zero. We heard nothing. And on Wheel of Fortune's website, it does say, okay, if you don't hear anything from Wheel of Fortune, from the producers, from the casting team, you can go ahead and reapply the following year. And so I went to my wife and I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and reapply. And she said, I'm good. Like she is not one for like the camera. She's a very shy person. Um, she just likes to kind of keep to herself. She was really doing this for like a favor for me. And so when it came for that year to decide, okay, are we gonna apply? Well, I applied, but I did it just on my own. And so I made this video and I was thinking, okay, are there certain things I can do differently about this video than I did for the last year's video? So like I just researched like crazy. I searched on YouTube, on Google, on all the different resources that are out there, on all of the videos that people have made that got them into the show. And yeah, worked on editing, and I'm not really great at editing, but I put something up, put it out there, and I didn't really hear anything for a few months. And then after like a little bit of time, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and send this video to all of the people that I know that are connected to Wheel of Fortune. So like on socials, I'm sending it to Pat Sajak. I'm sending it to Vanna White. I'm sending it to Maggie Sajak. And I don't know if that made a difference at all, but I do know the very next day I got an email from Sony Picture Studios saying, hey, we liked what we saw and we'll go ahead and schedule an audition where you're going to compete against and do like a mock game against other people that also want to be on the show. So it took that second try. I don't know if the social media, a little bit of pressure influenced that in any way, or if it was just coincidence. But yeah, it was 2 times. But yeah, I'm still trying to convince my wife to to get on the show because yeah, she still crushes me every now and then.
Sure. Let's backtrack for a second. You mentioned doing research in order to prepare for the video audition and learning what worked and what didn't. In your research, what commonalities did you notice? What worked?
Yeah, so the things that I noticed. So my first video was just I am standing in front of a white wall and I'm just speaking for I don't like 45 seconds just straight to camera and just talking about my life, talking about what I do, how does that prepare me to appear on a show like Wheel of Fortune? Why do I even want to be on Wheel of Fortune? And so it was just like a very meh video. It was just very bland. And then when I was looking at other videos, there were people that were doing kind of the same things, but they were showing maybe like a little bit like B-roll clips of them watching Wheel of Fortune, answering it, the answer like out loud, playing the video game, and just also just showing themselves in just unique situations. Maybe they're, hiking a mountain. Maybe they're playing a sport. Maybe they're just at a party and just, it's having a good time. Like just that, whether it be B-roll or like it's just something that they're just cutting to. I think was a common thing that I saw from other contestants. But it's not only that. Like, and I'm not saying that if you want to be on Wheel of Fortune, you have to go ahead and show all of this other stuff. I think a lot of it is just your personality. Doing the podcast, one of the things that I do at the very end of every episode for all these former contestants is that I'll ask them, what is your advice that you have for a future contestant that wants to get on the show? And I would say 95% of the time, those former contestants will say, show your personality. And not only show your personality, maybe amp it up just a little bit to just get yourself or just get the attention of the casting team. Because if you're going in there a little bit, it almost seems as if you're reading off of a script and it's monotone. No one's going to want to see that. Even if you're like a really great contestant, the thing that really sets people apart is their personalities. And so if you're a really enthusiastic personality, like a Eugene Byun, show that. If you're a person that is very sarcastic and you like to go ahead and razz on your family a little bit and say how, there was a contestant who said like, I'm married to like my ball and chain. I have 3 rotten grandchildren. That person got on. And not only did he get on, he came back for like a fan favorite appearance because he was showing his personality in just a different way. So however you are, personality wise, the thing that I saw that got people on was just amping it up a little bit. So when I did my second video, I was living in Hawaii at the time. I pulled on like a little bit of the aloha charm a little bit. I'm throwing up the shaka. I have my aloha shirt on. I'm, talking about, how I love Wheel of Fortune, how I want Wheel of Fortune to come back because Wheel of Fortune used to be taped here in Oahu, like at Ko'olina, and they don't do that anymore. So I'm like, I was kind of like getting the show, like, okay, come on, let's get you guys back on. So
I remember
I
those.
think
I
a little bit
remember
of that.
those weeks where they would be like right on the beach.
Yeah, they were on, the Ko'olina beach, and it was before I ever actually was living in Hawaii. But from like what I've heard from people that have done it, it's like the best experience ever because that beach also hosts like American Idol, right? So like Ryan Seacrest has a little bit of experience with that. So they don't do it anymore. And at the very end of my episode, like when there's like the contestant that won the episode, they're standing right next to Pat or Ryan now and Vanna White. They're all talking. That was one of the things we were talking about. So it's interesting. But to answer your question, the thing that sets people apart is just the personality aspect. Amp it
Yeah.
up just a bit to set yourselves apart from everyone else.
That's a great point. And yeah, that's such an important thing to know when you're participating in that experience, when you're doing the audition thing. It's I feel like I would even add to that. I feel like it's a fine balance between amping up your personality, to 11 and also preserving that authenticity that people
Yes.
have. You know what I mean? Casting people, and not just casting people, but people in general, people who are watching the show, and just people I think in real life are very perceptive, and they can tell whether someone is being real or not. And
Yeah.
so to not only be able to amp it up, but also prove that this is really who I am. This is my authentic self. Authentic people just show up better on camera. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like we have one of the people that was co-hosting the podcast a few months ago, Amy Narden, who appeared on the season 42. She has that enthusiasm that is just jumping off like out of the TV screen, but it was who she was. Like there were people online like spamming the comments saying, "This is all an act. This is all an act." But then there are comments of people that used to work with her that are saying, "This is actually how she is." So she was enthusiastic, but she was also just true to herself, and it just makes like for great TV and being able to talk with her. She is the type of person where you just want to be with around. She has that energy where you just want to hang out with her all the time because she's just a great time. So that is very well said, Christian. Having that, amp it up to 11, but still maintain true to yourself.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I was happy to have watched your episode, and I'm looking at my notes here, and in all caps, I have the words stage fright.
Oh no.
Ready, everybody? We'll do another toss-up. This one is worth $2,000, and the category is showbiz, where we all toil at this moment. Raul.
Stage brights.
No?
Stage fright.
Yeah, Aaron gets it.
The thing is, I was experiencing a huge bout of stage fright because I remember like just preparing for the show and just trying to get myself accustomed to like what to expect. So like I saw like testimonials from like former contestants. I saw, there's a video of like Maggie Sajak kind of giving a tour of the entire Wheel of Fortune set. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to like get prepared. But there's nothing that prepares you for the show. There really isn't. Like you can watch the show every day of your life, but when you're actually there standing in front of the wheel and the huge bright lights are there and you got these giant cameras that are moving around and Pat Sajak is standing within an arm's reach from you. I had a crazy bout of stage fright. Like before my episode was, starting to tape, I was having a great time. I was schmoozing with all the other contestants and the coordinators and the producers, and like this is so fun. And then I get there and I just froze. And I was the bright lights were very front of mind to me. So when that second toss up came up and I pieced the the first word, I'm like, okay, that's stage something, okay, stage. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this stage is very bright. And I'm gonna go ahead and buzz in and see if it's right. And so I say stage, and then like with a question mark at the end, I say bright. And
it was just at the top of your mind. The stage, after all, was bright.
Yeah, that's all that it was. And like very caveman, like stage bright. Like that's not a thing.
It's a puzzle and also a complaint.
Yes. Yeah, this is too bright, guys.
Yeah, right.
But then as soon as the lady that I was competing against, Erin, she was in the blue spot on the far right. She says stage fright, and I'm like, in my episode, I don't know if you can catch it. I say, oh yeah, that's what I'm experiencing right now. Like I am experiencing about a stage fright because if I was watching it at home, I feel like I would have been able to get it correctly because I'm like in like my lounging clothes. I got some, I'm like in my boxers. I'm like, okay, stage fright would have been the answer like 3-4 letters ago. But being there on the show, it is nerve-wracking. So like my reaction time was definitely hindered by like a second or two. But not only that, I was competing against some crazy good opponents. So that was also like intimidating to me as well, because that first toss-up that came up, I was like, okay, here it is. Okay, we got this. And then the other person, Aaron, got it so quickly. I'm like, okay, I'm competing against one of those contestants who's about to go viral because they're going to get all the answer with just a couple of letters. And I'll be one of the people that just fades into nothingness because I'm going to get skunked on the show and leave with just the $1,000 minimum. So, yeah, it was stage fright is definitely something that I've been experiencing ever since then, because my brothers love to bring it into conversation. They love to just razz me on for it. I just recently did a community theater play, and I was experiencing some stage fright. And so that experience also kind of brought me back to my Wheel of Fortune experience. I'm like, okay, yeah, the term stage fright will just stay with me until I am just, long dead in the ground. So yeah.
No, but I'm telling you, I understand, and I think people listening understand as well. It is different playing Wheel of Fortune. First of all, let's just talk about the base differences between watching the damn show at home and playing the game on set. First of all, you're standing up and you're under lights, and the actual wheel is there. The decision to spin the wheel is a physical commitment. Do you know what I mean? Like there's so much at play. Not to mention the fact that you're on a buzzer. That's a whole different aspect of the game that doesn't really come into play at any other point. You have to get in there first. And I think sometimes in order to beat the rush and get in there first. You don't always uh you don't always know what you're saying when you hit the button. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sometimes,
yeah,
like under pressure. I mean, that's how Family Feud makes its money and makes its, all its
exactly.
YouTube revenue, right? If you
Yep,
give
yep.
somebody 15 seconds and say, name a kind of bread, they're gonna say something stupid, But the stage, but even what you said isn't stupid. It's another thing that could have fit perfectly, and it was what was at the top of your mind. Um, you did mention though, and I noticed this as well, your competitors were really tough, especially Erin at the end. There was one point, she went really hard, and I didn't think you were gonna get control of the wheel again, and by the grace of God, you did.
Yep.
She was
Yeah,
good.
she cleaned up house. Like, she won everything up until the prize puzzle round. So she won the first toss-up, she won the first puzzle, she won the second toss-up, she won the mystery round. And so when we were in commercial break, doing that last prize puzzle round, I'm like, it's a little bit awkward right now because but the prior commercial breaks, all three of us, Lucy, Aaron, myself, we're all like feeling loose and we're like, kind of like dancing to like no music a little bit while we're talking to like the contestant coordinator. And the contestant coordinator is just like, you guys are great. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Make sure you guys, have the energy. And so I'm trying to keep that in mind. But then when we got to that commercial break right before the prize puzzle round and none of us had won anything except Aaron, the mood had just dipped down to just like nothingness. And we're just like, oh, yeah, we're going to be one of those people that just gets double skunked. Lucy's not going to have anything. I'm not going to have anything. And then Erin is just going to clean house and she's going to be probably talked about as one of the greatest contestants to ever play. And so when the prize puzzle round came, I knew if I wanted to have a shot at just going to the bonus round, I needed to win that prize puzzle round. And so, Erin had control for much of that puzzle. And so she's calling, the letters that you want to call, the RST, the LNEs of the world. She's calling those main ones. And then all of a sudden, she calls an M. And I think it's because she might have thought the third word was the word minute because it's got the I in the second spot. It's got the N in the third spot. It's got the E in the last spot. It does look
And
like
what
it
did the
could be
puzzle turn
minute.
out to be?
The puzzle ended up being not a single cloud in the sky. And so
Okay.
because she called that M, that gave me control of the wheel. And at that time when I had control, I had no idea what it was, but I'm gonna call those higher yielding letters to give myself a shot. So I called an S. Okay, S is in single. It's also in sky. Still don't know it 100%. I'll go ahead and call an L. That's another higher yielding letter. L's in single. It's also yeah, I was in single, so I'm like, okay, not a single and just piecing it apart. Okay, cloud. Okay, L was in there, and then yeah, I was just able to say the rest of it. So when I knew what it was, I kind of like fumbled over my words. I'm like, can I solve it? And then I ended up saying it, and yeah, just the rest of it. Just I think I kind of blacked out a little bit because when I had finished, saying it, and they talked about the prize to Barbados and all the money that I built up in that round, I had leapfrogged um, Erin to take the lead, even though she won again the first toss up, the second toss up, the first puzzle, and the mystery round. I just solved one thing and I was able to get ahead of her. So I was just very fortunate that I was able to hang on because she did fantastic. And then afterward, we get to the triple toss ups. Uh, Lucy and Erin, they split those up and they did fantastic on these toss-ups. Like, as a part of my podcast, I find the averages of the toss-up times, and typically in like a given season, the average time is like 7 to 8 seconds of answering a toss-up puzzle. On my episode, it was like 5 seconds. Like, they were just so
Yeah.
quick with it. They were
Yeah,
really
they
good,
were
and so
unusually good. I'm thinking in
yeah.
particular about the final puzzle. It was rhyme time. Out of like 4 letters, this woman in the middle, laser focused, noodles and strudels. How the hell?
Yep.
You know what I mean? They were notably good. And a lot of the contestants that I talked to that have been on Wheel of Fortune, because they are such massive fans of the show, because they've watched it for so long, because they played the game, because they have the home version in their car, whatever, they're just really good at the game. And so I hear a lot of experiences of the people like in our circle of game show fans just going and smoking whoever they're playing against. It's interesting to hear a sort of opposite experience. This wasn't a, a Eugene level of passion for Wheel of Fortune, your entire life, but you got on the show and you won by solving one puzzle. That's all you did was solve the prize puzzle. When they're briefing you on the rules, right? Do they mention anything about the prize puzzle being strategically important in terms of wanting to win the game? I've noticed that the prize puzzle is very often make or break because it comes with a bonus prize and they add that value of the prize to your final score for the day. So, unless there's another round in which you can win another $14,000, if you win the prize puzzle, that's pretty much it. Do they make you aware of that? Do they say anything about that being a particularly important round to win?
Yeah, so before we appear on the show, like we get this very long briefing, on anything that you can come to expect for the show. I don't think they went out of their way to say, hey, just so you guys know, you're going to really want to answer that prize puzzle round if you want to have a shot at, the bonus round, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I don't think they necessarily said that, but I think all the contestants were well aware of that. From just watching the show, typically the person who wins the prize puzzle round goes to the bonus round. So I just knew that like for anyone that even has an inkling of knowing the answer for the prize puzzle round, you say it right away. You don't try to go ahead and have a shot at spinning the wheel once again because you could get a bankrupt. You can go ahead and get a loser turn. You can say a letter that's not in there. If you think you know what it is, say it. And so that as soon as I knew what it was, or I felt like I was comfortable in knowing what the answer was, that's when I said it. And yeah, I was just glad because I feel like I won the most amount of money by winning the least amount of puzzles because it's just one and then you're automatically into the bonus round. That typically doesn't happen. Normally you got
No,
to win
it
a couple
doesn't.
things. And
And are you realizing that as it happens? Like, is there a moment where you go, "Holy shit, I just solved one puzzle and I won." Like, do you like is that are you cognizant of that at that point?
like, during the show, no. During the show, it was just a whirlwind of just trying to juggle all the different things, the lights, the host, the puzzles, the wheel, the scores. I wasn't really aware of that. It was just more of, okay, what is my dollar amount that I have for the show? What are all the dollar amounts for everyone else? And can I just still stay on top by the end of the final spin round puzzle? If I can be able to do that, then okay, it's bonus land for me. So that when Lucy, the lady in the yellow spot, the middle spot, when she answered noodles and strudels, I knew that if I answered it or if she answered it, I was going to go into the bonus round because I still had the lead. The only person that can really leapfrog me is Erin, who was just about like $1,000 less than me. Like she just needed to call one letter and just solve it, and she was going to have it. So the fact that uh, Lucy was the person that said noodles and strudels with just a few letters was like the greatest thing ever. And when, Pat Sajak is talking to like all the contestants at the end and saying, congratulations, you won this amount of money. When he was done talking to Lucy, I gave Lucy like the biggest like fist bump. I'm like, okay, thank you so much because you're the reason why I get to go to the bonus round. The fact that she said it was just great. So yeah, amazing experience.
Incredible. Uh, Tell me your final total after you won the bonus puzzle. What did you walk away with?
I think it was about like $59,000 in cash and prizes. So uh, the majority of that was from the bonus rounds because I ended up landing on the $45,000 envelope. Um, and then about like $13,000 it was for the trip for Barbados, all of the incidentals, the airfare, and all that stuff. So all in all, cash and prizes was about $59,000.
Right, and then plus the cash, I guess, from the prize puzzle because I think you were
Yes.
at like 2,800 in that round before he announced that you had won the trip as well,
Yeah,
or
somewhere around
something
there.
like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. What were you able to see or do or accomplish as a result of winning on Wheel of Fortune? What did that win do for you?
Yeah, it gave me a little bit of flexibility. I as a teacher, teachers don't get paid a whole lot of money. The amount of money that I won was definitely more than like a year's worth of my teaching salary at the time, and or really at any point in my entire career. And so it gave me a little bit of flexibility of deciding, okay, if we were going to go ahead and homeschool our child, well, we got a little bit of money that can be able to help us make that transition a little bit more comfortable.
Sure.
In terms of buying certain things, the the prize that we ended up getting for the from the show going to Barbados. Um, my wife and I, when we first got married and we had our son, we never had a honeymoon, so we were able to kind of use this trip as like a free but kind of paid for a trip for us. So we ended up having our son staying with my in-laws, and my wife and I were able to spend about a week in Barbados, and it was just
Oh,
the best
wonderful,
time ever.
wonderful.
Everything
Yeah.
was like again like top class, and it was the first time I also like went outside of the country. So I've traveled like so much like throughout the country with my teacher training uh, profession, but going outside of the country and doing that, it was just a ton of fun. And then I've been using a little bit of money on either investing, saving, or just certain passion projects of mine. I tried doing like this marble run YouTube channel. I did a little bit, so I got like all this like marble run stuff with my son, and then also doing like the Wheel of Fortune based podcast, like just the little bits of equipment to make it a little bit more professional sounding here. So yeah, just been using. I haven't been going crazy on that. I know that I didn't win like $1 million, but I've just been using a little bit here and there, and yeah,
No,
it's been a lot of fun.
it sounds sensible and fun, and I love it.
Yeah,
God bless you. I think that's wonderful.
that's
Um,
basically my personality: sensible and fun.
Good,
Yeah,
good. No, I love I think it's fantastic.
yeah.
One of the things that I've noticed over the past few years, especially when it comes to Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, are the communities of former contestants that have sprung up. I think because of social media, I think because it's easier to find people these days. Um, I noticed that every season of Jeopardy, every season of Wheel of Fortune, like, has its own Facebook group, and they stick together, you know what I mean? They're like, all the former Wheel of Fortune contestants in particular are very close-knit, very familial with each other, and I know that you have a podcast dedicated to interests centric to Wheel of Fortune. Tell me what that experience has been like, tell me about the podcast, and tell me, how it has improved how it's improved you and your life, having a podcast, having that creative outlet.
Yeah, so there's a huge Wheel of Fortune like alumni community on Facebook, and everyone is and it's like thousands of people that have appeared from like the very first season of Wheel of Fortune all the way to like this current season, and it's just a lot of fun to be able to connect with people that, have, like, this shared experience, and, like, not many people there's so many people that apply for the show, but not many people get accepted, and so, it's interesting to be able to compare stories online, but we've also been doing this, like, alumni tournament, like, slot machine tournament where, last year we went to Las Vegas, and then this current year we're going to Reno, and it's just been a lot of fun to be able to, connect with people and talk shop and just get to know one another. Like I've made so many friends as a part of this experience, and I did not expect that to happen. I thought, okay, I'm gonna get onto Wheel of Fortune, and I'll try my best and get on the show and try to win some money, and that'll probably be it. But the friendships is the best part. And when we had our last tournament, and it was my first time going, I I don't know, it was like just all of this, like, energy, and it was just a lot of fun, and I wanted to see if there was a way where I could be able to continue that. Because 'cause I'm like, "I don't wanna wait another year to, like, experience this," because like, there are people that are from all over the country, all over the world, and so that's where the podcast really came about. It was, how can we go ahead and still kinda continue on these friendships and still continue on these connections, and like, okay, you know what? Maybe we can do like a weekly podcast. And okay, what are we going to talk about that? Because we can go ahead and talk about, the lives of all of the contestants, but there's so many people that are doing that, and they're doing a fantastic job. I didn't want to kind of step into that realm. And so I'm like, you know what? Let's do a recap podcast. Let's go ahead and just talk about the week in Wheel of Fortune with a former contestant who can share insights on the aspect of being a contestant, and maybe we talk about the strategy involved. Maybe we talk about the viral moments that happen, the great solves, but also like the horrible misses that go on. And so that's been a lot of fun. We started it this current season back in September for season 42, and we've just been going every single week, and so it's just been a fantastic experience. The podcast, it's called Come On Big Money, very on brand for Wheel of Fortune, and it's been great. Like we've had many people. You mentioned Eugene Bion. We've had you know you know, Robert Santoli. We've had Emilio De Leon, Christian, Dixie, Fred Fletcher Jackson, like all of the people that have like they've been on the show, they've had viral moments, they've been on to the fan favorites, and the thing is like it is so difficult to get all of the people on because there's so many people to choose from. So like I want to have every single person onto the podcast because they are just fantastic in their own right, and they bring different elements. I'm like there we had Matthew who like he dressed up like a wrestler and like ripped off his shirt on the podcast. Like wasn't expecting that. We have Eugene who's like brought like his entire like volume to the podcast, and like we had mic issues because like he was just so loud. And but I love that kind of stuff, and it's just been a great time. So I can't wait for like this upcoming tournament to happen so we can go ahead and all connect once again in person. But in the meantime, we have the podcast where we can be able to connect with people, and it's just been a fantastic experience. And I definitely foresee this podcast continuing for the next season of Wheel of Fortune for season 42. And yeah, it's been a passion project to start out, but who knows where it'll go. Maybe at one point we'll get to your level of status in terms of a podcast, Christian. But
Oh, stop it.
right now, it's just been a lot of fun.
I am glad to hear it. It's fun to have that outlet and to be able to discuss something that you're passionate about with somebody else who's also passionate about it. I mean, there's no going wrong listening to a conversation like that. Like that will always work. I know that you mentioned that you end each episode of your podcast with a question regarding what type of advice the contestant might have for people looking to get on the show. I wonder if we could end with any advice that you might have for a contestant, not only on Wheel of Fortune, but on a game show, full stop, for a contestant who's already been on their show. Do you have any advice for people as they reflect on those experiences and maybe regret things that they said, or maybe they didn't win as much as they thought they wanted to, or maybe they did win? I wonder if you have any outlook on how to feel about the experience post-show.
Such a great question, Christian. Really, really such a great question. I think, from my personal experience and then also talking with the other former contestants, and whether it be Wheel of Fortune or other game shows, that you're a part of history. Good, bad, or indifferent. You're a part of history. Because who knows how long these shows are going to be staying on the air. If they do, great. If not, it just evolves through time, right? My advice is that, we only have one life to live. And we can go ahead and, kind of just do like the same things. You go to work, you do your thing. But sometimes in life, like you got to take risks. And sometimes like those risks, they will be fruitful. And you will win lots of stuff and you'll have all these memories. And sometimes you might win nothing, but you at least have that experience. When I see there are people that leave with the minimum of $1,000 on Wheel of Fortune, what's the thing that they always say? Even though they're winning with the minimum, they always say, I'm just glad for the experience, right? The experience is really the thing that we will all carry for the rest of our lives. Whether if it's like, and any experience. It can be a game show, it can be a reality TV show, but just any experience that you have in life. We only got one shot at this thing, right? And if you can be able to do all the things that you have in the back of your mind, I wonder what that would be like. That's all you can ask for. It's just experiencing life and just going to the very end and saying, I didn't have any regrets. I lived a good life and I had fun. And you know what? Maybe I won a couple extra dollars. But ultimately, it was about the experience. So whether if you won a lot or not, enjoy the experience.
Tell us about yourself. Conversations with Game Show Contestants is hosted, produced, and edited by me, Christian Carrion. from my studio in beautiful downtown Lancaster City, Pennsylvania. Co-executive producer Cory Anotado. Researcher Chuck Donegan. This has been a production of BuzzerBlog, the most popular game show website in the world, in partnership with the National Archives of Game Show History at the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. For more information, visit museumofplay.org. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Christian Carrion. Good night. Tell Us About Yourself is sponsored by bonusround.ca, streaming Canada's classic game shows on demand. Dive into the golden age of television with thousands of episodes of Canadian series that defined an era from anywhere in the world, all for just $1.99 a month. From iconic shows like Let's Make a Deal and Definition to cult classics like Bumper Stumpers and The Mad Dash, bonusround.ca brings you timeless entertainment that's fun, enlightening, and affordable. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, relive the magic of Canadian television history. Subscribe now at bonusround.ca for $1.99, download the free Bonus Round app on iOS, Android, and Roku, and turn every night into Game Show Night. By Game Show Forensics. In a world where game show imperfections go unchecked, where judgment calls are questionable, and where clocks tick with unsynced inaccuracy, there is but one elite force to investigate it all. Armed with the latest in atomic electromagnetometer and gas chromatography mass spectrometry technology, Game Show Forensics is always on the case. Join Robert McKee and his elite squad of game show scientists as they dive headfirst into the most absurd depths possible at GameShowForensics.com. Adult discretion is advised. And by The Inn at Leola Village. Nestled in the heart of picturesque Pennsylvania, the Inn at Leola Village is a sanctuary of luxury and relaxation. Indulge in the timeless beauty of their historic suites, each meticulously designed to transport you to a bygone era of elegance and grace. Experience the culinary delights of their award-winning Italian restaurant, where every dish is a masterpiece crafted from the finest local ingredients. From romantic getaways to corporate retreats, the Inn at Leola Village offers a haven for every occasion. Unwind at the spa, stroll through the lush gardens, and let the stress of everyday life melt away. Make your reservation today at theinnatleolavillage.com or call the front desk at area code 717-656-7002. The Inn at Leola Village, an oasis of luxury.